Hello and welcome everybody for once more GRL podcast. This week we were in the US for the last time this season at Miami, so the third US Grand Prix, and also the third last round of the season. So after this week, obviously only Abu Dhabi and Brazil left. And it's been a while since we were here in Miami, near the Hard Rock Stadium of the Miami Dolphins, but we were here for F1, obviously. And yeah, I've got Cynthia with me tonight, so we will catch up on all the action that occurred. And yeah, let's just immediately jump into Division 1. In Division 1, it was a Mercedes victory for myself, Atom, starting from P10, with Snipes in second, Techubi in P3, so his debut in Division 1, Beatty Shakosh in P4, so making it a double top 4 finish for Red Bull, with Michael Dale in P5 and B4 in P6, losing vital points to his championship rival. Played with the fastest lap in P7 and JW Gibson in the other McLaren in P8 starting from P11. Then with DNFs from Quarrel, Dave Raptors, Jacob and Dre. In the Drivers' Championship, Snipes still leads the way with 317 points, while B4 drops down a little bit and is now 12 points behind, sitting on 305, whilst Jack is comfortably in the P3 with 227 points and is now out of the championship. Blade now in P4 with 207 points, so he gained a bit again on Welsh Jack by racing in Miami, with Ham in P5 on 164. Atom myself on 118 in P6, with Radius on 97. Torpen then on 93 points in P8 and Max Souza on 90, while Gibson jumps up 2 positions into the top 10, now sitting on 85 points. In the Constructors' Championship, Alpine are very close to wrapping up the championship, but it's not quite happened yet, as there will be a sprint in Abu Dhabi due to not being one in Miami this week due to the numbers. So Alpine sit on 544 points, while Mercedes is 110 points behind with 434 to the name. McLaren move up into third position with 302, while Alfa Romeo dropped down one with 274 points. Red Bull then in fifth on 261, just 16 points ahead of Aston Martin. Ferrari, despite lacking full-time drivers, sit in P7 still with 207 points, while Haas move up into P8 of the championship with 160 points, 2 points ahead of Williams Racing. And AlphaTauri not scoring at all in Miami, round off the table with 132 points. Well, since I'm the Division 1 driver here, also I guess I've got to sum up what happened in this race. I mean, that certainly was an interesting one, starting off with a dry qualifying and also a pretty dry and sunny midday race pretty much at Miami. But yeah, it turned to be quite wet in the end, as within the last 5 to 6 laps, it started to rain. Well, it actually got darker for a couple of laps before, but the rain just hit right at the death, which completely turned things around. While myself, Techubi, and yeah, maybe Beeford had advantages in the wet conditions. Drivers like Shakosh and Michael Dale dropped down the order, but yeah, this is how it ended up with Mercedes and Alpine, just not the usual drivers in here. While Snipes takes second, I could take the win. And Red Bull also good for them to pick up some solid points. But yeah, it's quite sad to see Beeford and Blade so far down the order, considering they were in the top 3, because in the dry conditions we had Blade leading from Snipes and Beeford after the first safety car, but yeah, Beeford's brake on his wheel and load cell exploded, so this ended up in him basically almost straight lining Blade, not giving the McLaren damage, but also costing himself a couple of seconds. and basically putting his championship rival into the lead of the race in Snipes. I mean, Cynthia, that's probably worst case scenario, isn't it? When you just have a technical issue and then basically gift your championship rival the lead in the middle of the race.
Yes, hello again. It's not the most ideal situation, is it? I mean, the best thing you want to do is finish ahead of them, because obviously beating them equals more points. It's the most obvious fact, but I mean, I guess put them in a wall is another thing you could do. It's just not the most ideal way to sort of be ahead of them, is it? But I guess sometimes you make mistakes, regardless of if it was intentional or not. You make the mistakes, you have to look over them and think, how can we do better, regardless of if they're my rival or not. I have to race them. I have to race them fairly. I have to race them cleanly, and it just makes the championship fight a whole lot better when you know it's clean, and it also brings more tension and more entertainment into the factor.
Yeah, I mean, for us to watch, it's great when they just suddenly start driving into each other because a rivalry is building, but not for the right reasons, really. And if we look at the Constructors' Championship, I mean, whilst Jack wasn't here, so Alpine only had Snipes. Mercedes gained points, but overall, you probably have to say, looking at how the championship is shaping up in the Constructors, that Alpine have basically won it already, and I think for the right reasons, considering the season they've had. Not only Snipes being in the championship fight, but also Welsh Jack being the driver with the most race wins in this tier. I mean, just a really strong season for them, isn't it? Considering there are so many competitive drivers in here.
I mean, yeah, any team wants to have the best result they can in order to be higher in the points and hopefully secure the top spot. It's anyone's game, really. I mean, if there's one driver performing out of the league and his teammate is performing with absolutely zero standards, it isn't ideal for that team because then they need to sit back and rethink, you know, are these the right drivers or is one of them the right driver? But again, if you have another teammate which is absolutely on your level and you can both perform to top levels, maybe even fight each other for the championship, but also keep the points there for your team, it's the most ideal situation you can sort of be in.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, throughout the whole season, we've said it's very close in the midfield. People are really tripping over each other, trying to get possibly that best of the rest spot, which is right now probably P6. Obviously helping myself with the win there, but also the others like Torpan, Maxusa, Gibson, potentially Radius, looking to get that spot back. But right now, it's really all about the drivers' championship, like the top, the P1 spot, the championship trophy, which is what actually right now two drivers are on for, and that's Snipes and Beeford. And with 2 rounds and actually one sprint race, which usually causes some interesting scenarios, and having those two drivers split by 12 points with 2 races to go is just almost a perfect gap, isn't it? You have someone who is at the top and will want to stay at the top, and then you've got the other one in P2 who is certainly got to go almost all in and is coincidentally also the defending champion. I mean, Beeford has not led a single championship round, while Snipes has, I think, since round 2. So that's almost a perfect scenario, isn't it? Because with Beeford being champion, you also know he's probably not going to go for anything very stupid just based on his championship from last season.
Yeah, I mean, once you've reached the landmark and once you've done what you wanted to do, you sort of take it a bit more chill from there, knowing that you're at the top, you can't be beaten. That's the sort of mindset you go through. Whereas, again, if you're still fighting for the championship till the very end, you still have that added pressure of if I make a mistake, it could really capitalize the advantage that I have. Whereas, again, if you are basically already at the top, you've already clinched it, then you have more relaxing times for your next race and just however long you've got left because you know you're at a top spot, you can't be beaten. You can just take a step back and sort of have fun for the last few races that you can have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to expect that it's going to be great. I think they'll probably have more chill things on the mind after the season, considering we approach the Christmas break
Yeah.
before we head into season 5. But coming home with a GRL trophy, I think is a good thing to end off your season. But yeah, I can't speak. I'm like what 200 points off the pack, so I think
There's still every opportunity.
yeah. Well, the win is sorted now, so that's good. I've got my Christmas present for myself already. That's good.
Early Christmas present for you.
Yeah, I mean, what's now? Start of December. Yeah, well, better than nothing, isn't it? So, yeah, will be very interesting for sure on what will happen here. One thing though, I mean, Snipes and Welsh Jack throughout the whole season have raced each other really hard, even though they are teammates. Um, and have not really shown anything to help the other one out, which is basically the complete opposite to Mercedes. Well, be for the meme, and it is quite clear if you look at the points. There is a number one and a number two, so it's easier to work together, which wasn't always a given at Alpine, and which probably also is why they are so strong in the constructors, because they've got two drivers who can week in week out fight for wins and podiums. You reckon Welshak will can get convinced from Snipes to help him out, or you reckon he's gonna be like, I want to win those last two races to get in good shape for the next season and be the number one driver myself? How do you think will Jack possibly approach that?
I mean, if there's not much to fight for at the end, I guess there isn't any harm in helping the other person. I mean, if they were still fighting, obviously you'd be thinking to yourself, I don't want to help you, I want to beat you. But obviously, if there's no harsh feelings or if there's nothing to really fight for, helping isn't really a bad situation because obviously not only do you build the team's relationship, it would also help. You know, um, it's not reputation the word I'm looking for. Morale is what I'm looking for. It'll also help the morale going into next season if they're teammates or not. It will sort of help them be like, if we can be on equal pace, not only can we be at the top together to help the team out in the standings, but we can also have a good battle knowing each other's pace season around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it certainly would be quite interesting, I can't lie, because I remember at Australia, which obviously was round one, um, Snipes actually won the race at first, but Welsh Jack got him a penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage because of this at the end Welsh Jack led the championship after round one. So it didn't really start off in the best way possible for their relationship. So it would be quite nice to see him helping out his teammate. I mean, from a Mercedes perspective, it's probably not, but yeah, for Alpine for sure. So yeah, we'll have to see how this pans out. I mean, now they are the only teams basically who have both of the drives in the top six, and considering Ham and Blade are reserves now, they also are the top four drivers in the championship. So yeah, so far both of teams have done a really good job. But yeah, that's enough for Division 1 for now. So we'll have a look at Division 2, where it was in the main race Shente Bars who won from second place on the grid, and Partik starting 17th finishes second for AlphaTauri. Then we've got Rado Shelm, the LMFJ driver, in P3 for Aston Martin on his debut. Jamie Hobson in fourth, starting from 10th, the other championship contender, and also Dylan Baxter, who actually finished second, only 3/10 off Shente, who led most of the last stint and got Poland the sprint win, comes only P5 due to a 5-second time penalty. Joboden in P6 for McLaren, with Rob Kelly in P7 and Basher in P8, a double top 8 finish for Red Bull. Lloyd then in P9 and Avenicus in P10, with Cole and Rustic Place also finishing the race. Unlike Christmas, Karakimo, Omalo, Rambo, and Zalagi. And yes, you've heard right, there is a driver called Christmas. In the Division 2 drivers' standings, Shente Bars still leads the way with 271 points. Jamie Hobson in second with 245. Dylan Baxter only 5 points off, so it's still a nice three-way fight for the championship. AMS Cole then on fourth place with 178 points, so he's holding the Prancing Horses flag high for now. Driver with the number 5 in a Ferrari, so it's not Sebastian Vettel, it's AMS Cole from Scotland. With AMS Partick in P5 now with 153 points, and Jam in P6 on 144, just 1 point ahead of Rob Kelly. Jobbo then in P8 on 134 points, and Amos Lloyd in 9th on 121, with Beatty Jordan on 98 is 10th in the standings. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes have now done it. They've wrapped it up with a pole position, a front row lockout actually, a sprint win, 1-2, and a 1-2 also in the main race on track. Only Dylan's penalty at the end cost him to put him down into P5. So they sit on 510 points. So just an amazing season from, as Adam Reed would say, the Black Arrows, with AlphaTauri in second on 337 points, and Red Bull up into third on 309, with Ferrari bang on 300. Alfa Romeo in P5 on 295 points, only 6 points ahead of McLaren, with Haas on 267 and Alpine on 198, exactly 20 points in front of Aston Martin. But Williams is also pretty close, considering they're on 160 points and they're only 18 off the green machine. So I think looking and also talking about the Constructors' Championship they've just secured, Mercedes have certainly had an absolutely dominant season. But Gente Bars, he's had his ups and downs recently. But with Dylan Baxter, who looks like on pace seems to be the biggest competition for him, now being already 31 points off him, while there can only be 54 more scored, and Hobbs only being 5 points closer, it already looks quite comfortable for Shente, doesn't it? He just needs to kind of bring it home now.
Yeah, I think that's what any championship leader wants to do, isn't it? I mean, as long as once they take the lead, the only thing they've got to think about is keeping the results consistent and doing the best they can to finish ahead of their rivals. And to be able to do that, you've got to keep it consistent, put in the good results, and make sure not only you race cleanly to avoid getting any damage or penalties in the end result, but to also keep the respect on the track if you're racing your rivals wheel to wheel, and that'll also help make the fucking champ. Okay, I can't speak English right now. Make the championship more friendly in a way. I mean, everyone wants to see drama, everyone wants to see entertainment, but at the end of the day, for the drivers, keeping it clean is also on the top priority, because obviously it gives the respect to each other, and I think that's what everyone wants at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, respect on the track is always crucial because, unlike in real life, we're in a lucky place where we have the opportunity that we don't have to be in danger of possibly dying in the race car. The biggest problem might be when someone just smashes the screen out the park, but yeah, I think that's not the biggest problem for some, but yeah. Well, also looking at the race results, I mean, Gente Bars obviously had a great race and got the lead on the last lap to win the race in the end. But AMS Partick, I mean, from P17 in the sprint and on the grid to come second in the race, also helped by late safety car, but nevertheless, I mean, that's a cracking job at such a difficult circuit, considering traction, also setup wise. I think we can all agree it was a bit tricky, but he's certainly pulled off an amazing weekend here, hasn't
he? Yeah, I think that is an absolute stunning drive, considering the fact I think I've heard that Codemasters have lowered the street racing tracks grip. That is an excellent result to come from basically bottom of the pack to finish near on the podium. Was it?
Second, yeah.
Yeah, to finish on the podium, it's an amazing drive. Miami is an easier track to overtake on than others, but obviously it's also still you've got to take in the factor of grip and the tight corners that you have to get through. in order to be able to overtake someone. But yeah, there is no holding back. The drive that he put on was outstanding, and if he can keep doing that, he might earn himself a name for the end of the season. He might pick himself up by another team and get some recognition.
Yeah, I mean, Partik's always been basically the definition of race merchant. Quali never's been that great, as said to Venicus last week. But in the race, he's always excelled. And yeah, has also got a Division 1 race win to his name. Not one in Div 2 yet, but he's got as close as you possibly can be. So it'll be interesting in how he does in the last few rounds. Maybe he can snatch Cole's P4 in the championship. So it's close between the two AMS drivers. But yeah, I'll have to see. And once again, to top this off, I mean, it's also close in this Constructors' Championship behind Mercedes. I mean, AlphaTauri with Venicus and Partig, I said, seem to have a really, really strong lineup right now. Maybe the second strongest after Mercedes. Mm, but the teams behind as well are so strong. I mean, we've got Rob Kelly for Red Bull, who's really performing well. In Ferrari, we've got Lloyd and Cole. In Alpha, we've got championship contender Hobbs. In McLaren, we've got Jordan and Jobber. And Haas, we've got right now, especially Drastic Blaze and the odd reserve, helping those guys out. I mean, it's just amazingly close, isn't it? And these points and positions at the end of the season could be vital for the overall constructors championship, especially in the battle for P3, P4 down there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think every point matters, especially in with how tight some of the divisions are, and with the overall constructors being something you look at quite often. Personally, I don't look at it quite often because I try to focus on my division and
Mm.
my own team standings because I don't want to see Mercedes at the top. I've already seen them for the past 8 years. But no, discouraging that, I think every point matters. The most you can get out of a race weekend is the best you can get. You just have to hope on your teammates in other divisions doing well. And I think if you can always encourage each other to do the best they can, then you can always see some good results here and there.
Yeah, for sure. So will certainly be very interesting. Also at the bottom, I mean, Alpine, Aston Martin, and Williams are still only split by 38 points, so will be interesting on how this pans out. But as you can see, the gaps get a bit bigger in the midfield or towards the back. As the season ends now, though, it's all about the championships, and at the end of the day, that's what everyone cares about. In Division 3, we had a German race winner again with some Pikachu starting from P4 and boosted in second, while Corey comes third in the Haas and Sky Fee on his debut in P4, with Marcelo in P5 with the fastest lap and Eric in P6 from Lorne and Thomas. DNFs then we had from Hayes, Rexy and AJ Nolan. In the driver standings, Marcelo still leads the way with 263 points, and Boosted is only 10 points behind now with 253. Arvenikisten on 196, and some Pikachu 9.5 points behind him. Mako we've got then on P5 with 175.5 points, and Lorne another 9 behind him, just 6 ahead of Ashun Basha as he's on 160.5. Corey then jumping up into P8 of the championship lately with 134.5 points, and Hayes on 100 in P9, while Agent Nolan is on 10th with 78 points. In the Division 3 team standings, we've got AlphaTauri remaining at the top with 468, while Red Bull sits on 429.5, so the gap gets a little bit bigger once more. So AlphaTauri really getting closer and closer to that Constructors' Championship. Mercedes then on 361 points in third, with Alpine on 285, while Haas move up one more place to 133 points, and now in P5. Ferrari in P6 now with 208 points, and McLaren in 7th on 175.5. They are half a point ahead of Williams. Aston Martin then in P9 on 165.5, dropping down Alfa Romeo to 10th with 148 points. Well, I mean, first of all, once again, let's focus on the driver standings. I mean, Boosted had a quali ban, and yeah, it was a really crucial weekend for him because he could not have Masello finishing ahead of him once again, as that would have really put a dent in his championship hopes. But he's beaten Masello, and Masello's got also now 2 quali bans for the remaining 2 rounds. I mean, looking at the driver standings now, with a split of 10 points in favor of Mugello, but that driver starting from the back of the grid twice now. This is basically delivering us once again an amazing end to the season, isn't it? Because Boosted has struggled a bit recently, now has it in his own hands because he'll start ahead of Mugello in both races.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge disadvantage for Marcelo, and obviously having two QBs is not ideal, especially if you're only 10 points in the championship lead and you've only got 2 rounds left. Obviously, this comes into play for Boosted. If he wants to make it more spicy, he could obviously disqualify himself from for the next 2 qualifyings and make it a bit more interesting. But I think he'll take the most advantage he can out of Marcelo having two QBs, try and qualify as far ahead as he can, and have the best race result he can. And obviously with Marcelo, he needs to do everything in his power to make sure the race matters. Make moves carefully, not too risky, and just play his cards right for the next 2 races of the season.
Yeah, I mean, how would you do you reckon it's a bit difficult for Boosted as well? Because sorry, it looked like he was lacking a bit of pace all season long. He just could keep in there, and now he has that big advantage. You reckon the pressure swings a bit on him even more because now he's kind of expected to deliver the points and the performances. So do you reckon it is quite easy to just keep it calm and try and bring the points home to lead the championship after Brazil?
I think it depends on what he thinks his skill level is. I mean, if he thinks that he's been rated as obviously not having the best pace over the season, I think the pressure is going to be there to perform on the top level. But I think if he believes in his own skill, he can do it. If he just plays his cards right, doesn't get into much action. If he gets overtaken, stay in the slipstream, try and stick with him, make your overtakes when you can. Maybe do a little trading here and there to pull away from P3 a bit possibly. But if he thinks he has the pace to stay in the lead and try and pull a gap, all for it, go for it. But if he thinks that he doesn't have the pace, maybe qualifies P3 outside the second row, just stick with the people ahead of you, make your moves when you can, be safe. I think it's all to play for.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very interesting. As I said, Musillo's long in GRL, but Boosted's been here since round one, basically. So I think both of the drivers deserve the championship, and now it's only them two who can win it either. So it's really down to them two on who is going to be the Division 3 champion after this season. So that certainly will be very, very interesting for sure.
Yes,
Um,
it will.
and it's not hopeless either for Mugello, isn't it? Because Abu Dhabi and Brazil are certainly tracks where you can overtake, especially at the phase where probably full grids are pretty rare, and you probably shouldn't be too annoyed for having a qualiban around these tracks because it could hit you way, way worse. I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think personally for me, Abu Dhabi and Brazil, I haven't done much of them in this game yet, so I can't really say. But previously, Abu Dhabi and Brazil, they haven't been that bad of a track. It's just trying to stick your car in the front row and do as best as you can. But again, it's what he thinks he can do, what he thinks his skill level is. If he likes the track, he's definitely got the advantage. And if he can do well, I think again it's all to play for. You just got to do what you can around the 2 tracks left of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I think before we have a look at the divisions below that, I think we have, for the first time tonight, talk about your team. I mean, Haas, the last time we talked about this, Haas was like last by like 30, 40 points. Now then P5. possibly hunting down Alpine now. It's for fourth in the championship. I mean, Corey and Dom have made an immense charge up the grid, haven't they? And put us right up the order.
Yeah, I think it's good to see, that's for sure. If you can turn your season around and end on a high, I think you can be pretty happy with yourself, regardless of if where you started. It's how you finish, and if you can finish on a high, you can just pat yourself on the back and just keep the consistency for next season. You may not be in the same team, but if you can just keep your end result consistent for the start of the next season, I think you've definitely got more of a chance of being up there. If you're still in the midfield, that's fine. You can still work on yourself, but it's definitely more of a chance of being a championship contender if you can finish on a high. And definitely, if you can use the experience you've made at the end of the season to put it into next season, that will also help trying to get through the pack.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, especially Corey. I mean, he's got multiple race wins now to his name. I mean, if I have a look at his statistics, I mean, he's done really well now. Still eighth in the championship. I mean, he's got 2 pole positions, 6 podiums, and 3 race wins with a couple more second places. So yeah, really good job by him. And as said, AlphaTauri also extended the gap a little bit to Red Bull, looking good for them in the constructors championship now. But yeah, I think the job that Haas have done over those last few weeks is really something that stands out, and they can be really proud of, because Haas obviously is still on for the best GRL season they've ever had, and that's certainly a good end to their season. Well, enough of Division 3. Let's now have a look at Division 4. These drivers obviously were also racing in the Division 3 race, because this race was merged this week to guarantee a full grid. So it was Ayahuasca for the first time who won a Division 4 Grand Prix, from Sonic in second and Raven West in third, while Casper came fourth, Asteroid in P5, and the White Josh in P6, with DNFs or the excuse for Koyi and Jesper. In the driver standings, Raven West obviously still leading, as he's the champion now with 361 points, and Jesper on 213, with White Josh on 200 in third, and Sonic in fourth on 196, just ahead of Bright with 173, and Neb Restrom in P6 on 166. Koyi is then in P7 on 159 points, and Remo Banjo in P8 on 153, while Ayahuasca jumps up into the top 10 into P9 with 136 points, and Ronnie rounds off the top 10 with 127, dropping one more position down to the bottom of the top 10 drivers. Mercedes still is on top in the Constructors' Championship as well. They sit on 487 points, but it's clearly closer than in the drivers, because Alfa Romeo is only 81 points behind them, sitting on 406. Alpine then in third on 367, with Red Bull on 338, while Ferrari sit on 315, so pretty close between Alpine, Red Bull and Ferrari. AlphaTauri, with the win of Ayahuasca, sit in P6 with 256 points, and Aston Martin in 7th on 197, 17 points ahead of McLaren. Haas then on P9 on 147 points, and Williams in last, only 2 points behind on 145. I mean, AlphaTauri have struggled the last few weeks a little bit, and now they've brought home a race win with Ayahuasca, one of his first few podiums, and it's been a race win. I mean, that's certainly a good way to end off the season, isn't it? Especially on such a difficult circuit to wrap up your first win.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And to be able to get your first race win of the season in a difficult track, you've got to feel happy about that. I mean, not only have you got past the competition and beat them, you've done it on a difficult track, which a lot of people can probably struggle on. And to capitalise on, I think the way he's got the win, he's been able to capitalise on people's, you know, actions and what they've done to be able to slip up and lose a win in chance. I think it's all good that he's been able to do that. again, winning on a high is always a good thing. It always boosts morale. It always makes you do better in the coming races, especially the end of the season. Finish on a high. You can always make yourself feel better for the next coming season. And yeah, I think it's just a very good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, as said, the Division 3 and Division 4 won the same race this week. And Ayahuasca finished third there, so he obviously got the net win for Division 4. But he also was only 3.3 seconds off the race winner from Division 3, which proves that Division 4, nevertheless, being one tier lower than Division 3, but they certainly got people with really strong pace. And I think at Miami, as said, which is a pretty tough circuit, to be within 5 seconds of the leader of the next higher tier, that's probably a very strong achievement for him, especially after not having the best of seasons, isn't it? To just boost your confidence even more.
Yeah, it definitely does give a boost of confidence. Um, if you can keep it doing, if you can keep doing that, then it will make your confidence even higher. I know it's definitely helped me starting off on a low, and if you can just build the confidence up, know your ability, it definitely does help make you feel like a better version of yourself. It definitely does brighten up your day if you can finish on a good result as well. I know for a fact that if you can win a race, you'll definitely feel good about yourself for the next week or so until you get to the next race and think, can I do it again? I've done it last week. It's a possibility I can do it again this week. So obviously, it's all to play for whatever division you're in. I think they're all close, and to be able to win in a close pack, it's definitely something to pat yourself on the back for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one more thing we have to talk about is the team standings because, as said, in the drivers, Raven West has absolutely, let's be honest, destroyed anyone near him, whoever not wasn't near him. So he's wrapped up the drivers way, way before anyone thought. But in the constructors, it looks like Mercedes is going to win it, but it's not over yet. And Alfa Romeo with Sonic and White Josh have got a pretty solid driver pairing sitting in P3 and P4 in the championship. You reckon Alfa Romeo maybe can dispatch Mercedes to at least get closer or make it a championship race at Brazil? Or you reckon even though Mercedes only has one driver for Raven West, they're just gonna bring it home, or you think Alfa Romeo can really do something about it?
Well, I think if Raven's mindset is finished on the drivers, he might look at the constructors and think, I can do this. I can definitely still win on a high for the team. Obviously, Alpha will be throwing everything at him to deny him and obviously put themselves on the top. But I think if Raven can absolutely demolish the competition in the drivers, I think he can definitely bring it home on the top. All he's got to do is keep the finishers consistent and score highly, and he's got it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, Alfa Romeo, I think, have done a really good job this season overall in the drivers. They've got a solid pairing, but Raven West has just been something else. I mean, you can also see whatever he's done, it just worked this season. I think he's won DNF and he's led for so long, and just on his streams as well, the positivity is just unreal. I mean, he's not DNF'd. He got crashed into this week, but still they've such a big lead. And yeah, it will be very difficult, I think, for Alfa Romeo to really beat Mercedes. But yeah, a win or two are certainly needed for the talent team. But I obviously hope that it can be a bit closer after Abu Dhabi, and maybe
Yeah,
get at least the theoretical championship sorted only at Brazil.
yeah. I think if Raven can finish off with at least another win and maybe a podium, he can definitely clinch it for them, and it would be a good accomplishment to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's. I think it's always a bit difficult, isn't it, when you've got a one versus two scenario, because you can't only look at one other guy. So I'm sure it's not the easiest, but as I said, with the points margin of 80 points, he probably doesn't even need a podium at this rate. So yeah, no matter what happens, he's got his drivers' championship, and that's probably the most important thing to him in GRL this season. But yeah, that's Division 4. Let's see. Maybe we'll get a championship fight in the next few weeks. Looking at Division 5 though, it was Karen this time who got the fastest lap and won the race from P10, with Cyntium starting on pole coming second. 10th Cannon starting in second comes third, so both fastest losing one position, but nevertheless it's a double podium for them. Kevin then in P4, I think his best season result, starting from P7, with Kieran in P5 and Andrew in P6. And we've got Becca in P7, or Patrick as he's better known as, with Lexus in P8 and J Street in P9, gaining 2 positions off the grid, and Tyber in P10. Then we've got DNFs for Erna, Pet Pader, Stone Shuffle, Barbarino, Frog, and Slinks. In the Drivers' Championship, we've now got a new leader. Cyntium takes the championship lead for the Haas team and himself. More importantly, he's now sitting on 251 points, 18 ahead of Andrew, who is on 233. But also 10th Cannon is in this championship fight, still just about with 217 points. Barbarino then out of the championship with 191 points, but nevertheless a very strong season from the Frenchman so far. Lexus in P5 on 184, and Milk Cow in P6 on 169, 8 points ahead of Freezy. J Street in P8 on 134 points, so he's picked up another few after his top 10 finish. With McMessy 9th on 120, and Earn on 116. In the Constructors' Championship, also here, Haas take the lead by just 1 point off Alfa Romeo, with 584 to 583 points for the American outfit. Ferrari sit in third on 489, with AlphaTauri just about missing out on the 400 points mark this week with 399. McLaren jump up by 2 positions as they are now on 376 points. 23 points ahead of Red Bull, who are 1 point ahead of Mercedes, and Mercedes dropped down by 2 positions, staying now on 352 points. Williams then in P8 on 319 points, and Aston Martin 306, while Alpine 10th with 278 points is the only team who's not reached 300 points yet. Cynthia, I mean, your part now. I mean, let us know what happened in that sprint weekend at Miami. I mean, it started good in qualifying, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, the race was good, qualifying was good. It was a bit stiffy for me for the last 2 laps, but it was definitely an overall good weekend for me and the team as well. With my teammate. Um, can't really say there was anything wrong in the sprint race. Me and my teammate came 1 and 2 after a good bit of strategy and a good bit of teamwork to bring ourselves ahead of the pack behind. And in the race, it was really close competition with Karen. Um, Good racing between us three as well. We're able to pull away from P4 and sort of have the race in our hands, stick him in a hash sandwich for a few laps and try and hold him back as far as we could. I mean, at the end of the day, he still beat us, but nonetheless, it was a good result for the team and it was definitely a good battle. So I think, regardless of the result, it was definitely worth to be in that battle and be in the race.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, how is it to be leading Division 5 after some time?
I mean, I don't want to be a bit cocky and say it's been coming. Obviously, lacking a bit of consistency. If I had the consistency, it could have definitely came a lot earlier. But obviously, better late than never is always a saying as well. But nonetheless, it does feel good. Obviously, I'm leading the pack. I can sort of control it. Not as much as you can say you can control a race from the front of the pack, but obviously, I can only look forward now to the prize and just keep focused on that, as already have one hand on a trophy. I've just got to finish on a high and obviously get my second one on there and lift it in the air.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. But also, Karen, I mean, Alfa Romeo in the Constructors is realistically your closest fight because it's only 1 point separating the 2 teams, so that's obviously a bit difficult as well. But you reckon with Karen and yourself likely being the 2 quickest drivers, to push you along, it helps to have a driver like Karen because like he's not giving up anything because he has nothing going on in his championship. He can just go full attack while you obviously got a bit wise on what you do on the track. But you reckon him being so quick pushes you further as well, or would you just love to be at the top alone so it would be a bit more chill?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wants to be having a smooth race and having no issue from someone behind. But obviously, if I've got someone around my pace or even that bit quicker, I think it's always a good benchmark to try and stay with them and look at what they do because it also helps you improve to say, they're doing this, I can try and do it, and even I can try and do it better. But I think it's always a good benchmark to have someone on equal pace again or quicker than you. So then it sort of pushes you along. As much as I need to be wise and think about the championship to not make any mistakes and not to cough up, I think it's still a good I think it's still a good fight to be in, as he's got nothing to lose and I have all of it to lose. So, as much as I should be careful, I'm a racer. I want to be on the top, and I love to stick with the leader. Battle to the end. I'll keep it there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one last thing about the whole Haas scenario in this division. I mean, you theoretically can win the championship next week at Abu Dhabi, which I think is going to be a good goal for the next like just less than 7 days. How do you reckon are the chances? I mean, it's obviously you can't predict the race already, because in league racing usually things come different than you would expect them. Maybe more weird than in real life. You reckon how good are your chances so you can wrap it up this week and go and celebrate on the Monday night?
Well, I think with the consistency of Andrew, it will be a challenge. I will have to keep a good few cars between me and him during the race. But I think as long as I can fight for the win, get a win, or at least be on the top on the second step of the podium, I think all the chances are there to clinch it. It's just got to see how good of a race Andrew has, what he can do in the pack, and see if he can fight through to minimize the gap that I could have going into the last race of the season if I don't win it next race. And obviously with Haas as well, I've got to focus on beating both the Alfa Romeo guys to secure that. Same with my teammate. We've got to focus on beating Alfa Romeo, keep the teamwork there, and end on a high note. But yeah, we've just got to look at how good of a race Andrew has, see if he has the consistency to stay within the points needed to keep the championship fight alive. And in terms of constructors, we've just got to do the best we can.
Yeah, I think that sums it up nicely. I mean, finally you're at the top, so it will be a bit easier to not have to choose between DNF and win, even though there usually is not too much to choose from in that choice.
Well, I
But
mean, normally I have a little spin wheel, so we'll see.
I mean, the donuts need to be done at Brazil and not at Abu Dhabi, unless you want to make it interesting. Or you have just that much of a gap that you can put on a donut and cross the line ahead of all the others, which
I'll make sure I have a spare set of tyres in quali so I can do a cheeky outlap donut.
oh yeah, I mean that's one good idea for sure already. So I'm sure us are going to be happy about that new strategy option, or as I would say, Plan B. So yeah, will be very interesting, and I think Miller will string it again, where we might see a Division 5 championship decided. Now though, Division 7, the last F1 division we have on the cards here, we had Stueb, or Stabsy as I usually say, winning for Alfa Romeo from P5 on the grid, and Mason Rott in P2, and Moss in third for McLaren. So he was the leading McLaren this week, with Flash in P4, Banjo Voria in P5, with the fastest lap starting from P11, and Quick Mick in P6. Skion then in P7, starting from pole position and winning the sprint, and Browns to Buns in P8 from Kieran in ninth, and then we had DNFs for Keen, Golden Wolf, Sparky, Matthew Martinez, Monopole Monster, and a DSQ for Gaza Buchanan. In the Drivers' Championship, Skion now has secured the championship. He sits on 271 points with Stubbsy on 216.5. So just by half a point now, it's theoretically over as he can not catch Skion anymore. With Flash in third on 212.5 and Gaz on 185.5. With Moss on 171, jumping up 2 positions into P5 of the championship. Browns the Band sits in P6 on 165 points, 1 point ahead of Mike Reed, while Quick Mick moves up to P8 in the championship with 124 points, level pegging with Leo Hamilton. Mason Rock then sits in P10 of the driver standings now, jumping up by 3 positions to 102 points, so he's also now past the 100 points mark. In the final Constructors' Championship, the last division-based Constructors' Championship of this podcast, with McLaren in the lead with 450 points, having a decent gap to second place Haas with 376.5. Alfa Romeo then sitting in third on 284, moving up a couple of positions as well, 3, with Ferrari in fourth with 282.5, while Mercedes only 3.5 points behind in P5. Red Bull then sit in P6 on 263.5, and Williams on 263, only half a point behind, sitting in P7. Alpine then in P8 on 233.5 and AlphaTauri in 193.5, while Aston Martin are way off the pack with 119.5 points. Well, I mean, first of all, probably have to say congrats to Skion for wrapping up that championship, and yeah, looking at the driver standings, it looks quite dominant in the end, even though considering we said this is the best championship fight we had for a couple of weeks, and then Skion just scampered off into the distance. I mean, even though it's the lowest division, it's probably even more satisfying for him because he was the one who really could show that consistency is key, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first of all, congratulations for the championship win. It's a good way to end off the season, especially with 3 races to go. It's definitely what Skion would have wanted, and yeah, I think it's all still to play for second place now. He's not got to look any more forward. He can just chill for the rest of the 2 rounds that we have left, and sort of, you know, take a little vacation. He can sort of still sit in the pack, maybe win here and there again, or he can decide, you know what, let's have a bit of fun. Let's start mid pack or even at the back and fight through. But yeah, congratulations on that. Again, as I said, it's still on for the second spot in the championship. All to play for, anything's to play for. You just got to do what you can.
Yeah, I mean, he could also help his teammate potentially get into the fight, even though it seems like a bit of a stretch. But yeah, I mean, he could certainly get fourth, could get Moss, so it would be interesting on how
Yeah, I mean,
McLaren.
obviously, yeah, helping your teammate is on the option there as well. He can do that. Give Moss a bit of a slipstream for his quality lap. Maybe if he does well, keep him in the slipstream for the race. Try and help him guide himself through the pack, and secure him 2 last good results to get as high as he can.
Yeah, will be very interesting. I mean, I think we can both agree that McLaren have basically got the constructors in the bag as well, so they'll want to wrap that up in Abu Dhabi as well, in the lights of the, what's that, United Arabic Emirates or something like that.
Yeah, not as long as the name is MLS, so we can be safe on that.
Yeah, well, Abu Dhabi is the shortest way, I think, to
Yeah,
go
it's
through.
all for potential. They can definitely wrap it up in Abu Dhabi with a strong lineup, with a good race. They can definitely do it in Abu Dhabi.
I mean, yeah, Skion has just had an amazing season. I mean, he's had a few DNFs, I think, too. But if you take out those, his worst result was P8, I think. Yeah, and that was at round 1. So he's had 1 P8, 3 P7s, 3 DNFs, and except that, 1 P5, and then only podiums or wins. So really, really strong. I mean, in the last, wait, let me have a look. Yeah, since Austria, he's been brilliant. He had 3 podiums, then a DNF, then in the next 3 races, another 2 podiums. Then he didn't do Spa, then another 2 podiums, another DNF, another win, a couple of solo points, and then another win. So really, really strong from him, leading by 54.5 points. And I think he's going to be really, really happy. So he's got this sorted now, the Dutchman. And once again, the second Division 7 championship we've had here in GRL. And for the second time, it's McLaren. So yeah, it was Ferrari last season who won the constructors. I mean, that's not going to happen again. So it looks like McLaren are on a very, very good way to also clinch the constructors championship this time. And yeah, I mean, it's a bit close in the midfield here, but overall it's mostly done in the constructors. And as said, in the drivers for P2, it's interesting on who's going to be the best Frenchman. But yeah, it's spaced out a little bit now, isn't it? Because Skion has just destroyed the competition a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, whoever is the best Frenchman, if they don't decide it soon, they can always have a little trip to Paris and maybe set up some go karts around. So
Yeah, or
decide it there.
maybe go and eat some baguettes. I think would be a good idea as well. So,
Yeah, regardless if one of them beats one or the other, they can always just share a you know, happy congratulations here and there, and maybe take the race to the next season. Obviously, because regardless of if you end higher than someone else, I think always giving the high hopes and the congratulations to each other, it always does help keep each other going for the next season, keep each other motivated, keep the no tension there as well. So it would definitely help them in the long run.
yeah, I mean, talking about Frenchmen right now, actually, I've just realized that the Dutch flag is just a flipped French flag. So uh,
Maybe you're French.
I'm not. I'm certainly not French. I think my French teacher would certainly agree on that I'm not French at all. I mean, you can certainly not understand what I'm saying when I'm speaking French, but I think that's not the point. But
You can always try again.
yeah, well, I don't think that's the option, but okay. Anyway, we've got the overall constructors left to go through as the last spot of this podcast, and of course, it's Mercedes on top, as you said, for the last 8 years, pretty much.
Yeah, get them off.
With 2,501 points, they only need like 200 more, and then Alfa Romeo can basically get to 1-2 in every possible session and score any point, and it would not matter to them, as Alfa Romeo are currently in second with 2,096 points. Red Bull then is in third on 1,986, and Alpine in fourth with 1,900.5. AlphaTauri then in P5 with 1,844.5, 30 points ahead of Ferrari, while Haas is only 4 points off Ferrari as well. So can the American outfit pass the big Scuderia in the overall Constructors' Championship, while McLaren sit in P8 on 1,797.5 points, and Aston Martin have repassed Williams. They're now ninth again on 1,306 points, while Williams sit on 1,299. So, I mean, as said, Mercedes have got a slight gap at the top. So it's not too interesting there. And as we previously said for a couple of weeks, they've done a good job. They've really had a great season. But yeah, that's basically all you can sum up about them. But yeah, it's certainly more interesting in the midfield. The only question is, can you count Alfa Romeo and Red Bull to the midfield still, as they've got like a 100-point gap. But behind them, from P4 downwards until P8, it's really, really close, isn't it? And your team is right in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all to play for anywhere, isn't it? At the top, if Mercedes, all the drivers in the divisions decide they want to have an off day, maybe they get themselves disqualified, not qualify. Alfa Romeo are still in it basically, but at the end of the day, if we're talking realistically, I think Mercedes have it in the bag. they've done well in all the divisions, and be able to keep it consistent at the top. I think it's only going to end on a high for them. Speaking about my team, Haas, again, I think the most we can get in this season is definitely P5. P5 is going to be a push, but if we can all get the good results, it's definitely in there. P6 is definitely on the target. We've been hunting Ferrari down ever since, you know. He
Yeah,
equaled Ferrari engines. I think Haas might just muscle them out with the American power, but it's still all to play for. Anything, it
American
can go anywhere.
first, yeah.
Yeah, stick a V8 in it, it might go a bit quicker.
Make America great again. So,
Yeah, make the whole car an American flag.
oh dear, no, I'm not gonna cheer that on. But okay. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, McMessy, when was that? When we did exactly this podcast for, I think it was Cota, actually also the US. Um, he said Haas are gonna get fourth because they are the strongest midfield team, right? Like they're the strongest team except Mercedes now.
Hmm.
So that's very interesting. I mean, uh, yeah, I mean it's possible. It's 90 points across all division. It's possible, but you need to have a really strong outing also in the top divisions down tier, not only from Division 3 to 7, to 7 down, just also in Div 1 and Div 2 where it just needs to work together. You reckon it's on, like it's still possible to gain those 90 points, or is it just going to be too big of a pool?
I mean, it may be a bit too big, but it's definitely still on. If all the boys can get the good results, keep it high, maybe even on the second row throughout the race, then I think it's definitely on. But it could be just out of our reach, but come on, we like to think positive here. Anything's on. We could even win the championship if every team decides to get disqualified, but no. P5
Like
is definitely
reach a
on the
cost
target.
cap, yeah.
Yeah, get all the cost caps outflowing, get the rectors out there. But P5 is on the target, that's for sure. P6 is definitely, we can definitely secure that. But yeah, highest target, I think P5. But if not, I think P6 is a good result considering where we were at throughout the start of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you want P4, P5, I mean, even if you win the championship in D5 at Abu Dhabi, I don't think you can ever rest at Brazil. I think the 1-2 is needed. But
I'll still be fighting all the way to the end, so I'll do my best. It's just what everyone else can do as well.
yeah, if the overall it's a bit difficult, isn't it? Because you won't be able to calculate all the points together mid race. So now, yeah,
Yeah.
I need to gain 2 positions so we can edge out AlphaTauri by half a point. So yeah, I said it's gonna be interesting because all those teams have been scrapping for so long now. Now the season comes to an end, we'll finally get an infinite decision on who.
We'll sure give it our best shot, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as said, best season of Haas so far, and they're kind of only seventh. I say only, but they certainly didn't have the best run so far in GRL. But now they are on the best form they might have ever been. So really need to take advantage now. Otherwise, it might not come back to them so soon. But yeah, I think that is this podcast basically wrapped up. I mean, Miami, that was certainly an interesting race. We had a complete turn of events with rain at the end in Division 1. In Division 2, we had lots and lots of great racing, especially towards the end of the main race. In Division 3, we had a championship which is now back on, like really back on, with the championship lead and trouble with koala bands. In Division 4, well, actually, let's not talk about Division 4. In Division
Basically,
5,
that's wrapped up and done.
yeah, in Division 4 there could be an interesting new race winner. Let's put it this way. In Division
Could
5,
be.
we've got a new championship leader who wants to wrap it up at Abu Dhabi. And in Division 7, we yeah have the battle of the two baguettes, Frenchmen, sorry. So that will be very interesting for sure. And yeah, will Mercedes be able to wrap the overall constructors up at Abu Dhabi? Will be the first time in GRL history. that the team wins the overall constructors, not at the last round of the season, just showing the dominance that would be. So yeah, thanks Vicentium being here once more, and yeah,
Thanks for having me.
we'll speak to you all at the end of next week, basically, or at the start, because we race on Mondays, after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So I'll see you all when GRL returns.